For over a century, global commerce has relied on iconic canals like Panama and Suez, engineering marvels that shape not just trade, but the very balance of power between nations. These narrow waterways became the lifeblood of international shipping, connecting distant continents and fueling the rise of global economies. But today, on December 1st, 2025, the map of global trade is being rapidly redrawn before our eyes. The familiar lines that once defined the flow of goods are shifting, and the world's supply chains are adapting to a new reality. New routes are emerging, driven by a combination of climate change, technological innovation, and shifting geopolitics. Melting ice is opening up previously impassable passages, while automation and digitalization are transforming how cargo moves across the globe. These aren't minor tweaks to the system, they represent a fundamental reimagining of how the world connects, communicates, and does business. The very foundations of global trade are being challenged and rebuilt. Recent crises, like the Ever Given blocking the Suez Canal and severe droughts crippling the Panama Canal, have exposed the risks of relying on just a handful of strategic choke points. These disruptions sent shockwaves through supply chains, causing delays, shortages, and billions in losses. In response, the world is urgently searching for alternatives, new routes, new technologies, and new strategies to keep goods moving and economies thriving. In the far north, Russia is championing the Northern Sea Route as a faster, more direct link between Asia and Europe. This Arctic passage, once locked in ice, is now being promoted as a game-changer for global shipping, with new ports and infrastructure rising along its shores. Meanwhile, in the Americas, Mexico is building the ambitious Interoceanic Corridor, a land bridge designed to rival the Panama Canal. This project aims to connect the Atlantic and Pacific with high-speed rail and modern ports, offering shippers a vital new option. These projects promise to cut shipping times, reduce costs, and create entirely new economic hubs, transforming regions and reshaping the flow of global commerce. They challenge old assumptions about geography, power, and the very nature of international trade. The world's economic map is being redrawn, and the stakes have never been higher. As these new corridors open, they'll shift economic gravity, forge new alliances, and spark fresh rivalries. Nations are racing to secure their place in this new order, negotiating deals and forming partnerships to protect their interests. Control over these vital arteries will shape international relations for decades to come, influencing everything from security to economic development and even environmental policy. The world now stands on the brink of a new era of connectivity, one where the consequences will ripple from the world's busiest ports to the remote frontiers of the Arctic, redefining how nations trade, cooperate, and compete on the global stage. Throughout history, controlling trade routes has meant wielding power. The Silk Road connected east and west, fueling empires and spreading ideas. When sea routes bypassed it, power shifted to maritime nations like Portugal and Spain. The Suez Canal, opened in 1869, slashed travel times and became a strategic prize. Whoever controlled it held sway over global commerce. The Panama Canal, completed in 1914, cemented America's dominance and defined shipping for a century. Today, new routes in the Arctic and across Mexico echo these historic shifts. They're driven by the same quest for efficiency and strategic advantage. Just as canals once made old routes obsolete, these new corridors could marginalize the choke points of the last century. We are witnessing the early chapters of another great shift in the geography of power. The most dramatic new route in global shipping is quietly opening up in the far north, the Northern Sea Route, or NSR, which hugs the vast, icy expanse of Russia's Arctic coast. For centuries, this passage was locked in by thick, unyielding ice, making it a near-impossible dream for mariners and traders alike. But now, as climate change accelerates, the Arctic is transforming. Once frozen and impassable, these waters are becoming navigable for longer stretches each year. The summer melt season is growing, and ships can now traverse areas that were once solid ice, opening up new possibilities for global commerce. The NSR offers a shortcut that can cut the journey from Shanghai to Rotterdam by up to 40%, slashing both travel time and fuel costs. This means goods can move faster between Asia and Europe, potentially reshaping the economics of global trade. Recognizing the route's potential, Russia is pouring resources into the Arctic, building powerful nuclear icebreakers, expanding port facilities, and establishing military bases to secure and profit from this emerging corridor. Foreign ships aren't free to come and go. They must seek Russian permission and pay for costly icebreaker escorts, making Russia a gatekeeper of this new passage. In 2024, cargo volumes along the NSR hit a record 40 million tons, with China taking a keen interest. The route is now a key part of China's ambitious Polar Silk Road initiative, linking its factories to European markets through the Arctic. This growing partnership between Moscow and Beijing could allow them to bypass traditional Western-controlled maritime choke points like the Suez Canal, shifting the balance of global trade routes. Yet the Arctic remains a formidable environment. Navigation is still highly seasonal, insurance premiums are steep due to the risks, and much of the necessary infrastructure is still underdeveloped, making large-scale shipping a challenge. Environmental risks are also significant. The fragile Arctic ecosystem faces threats from potential oil spills, increased ship traffic, and the disruption of wildlife habitats, raising concerns among scientists and environmentalists worldwide. Still, the strategic logic is undeniable. As the ice continues to recede, the NSR's importance is set to grow, drawing more attention from governments, shipping companies, and investors. The Northern Sea Route is poised to fundamentally alter global shipping patterns, potentially redrawing the map of international trade. The world is watching closely as the Arctic transforms into a new frontier for trade, competition, and geopolitical power, a region where the stakes are as high as the risks. In the south, Mexico is racing to finish the interoceanic corridor across the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. This $2.8 billion project upgrades a 300-kilometer railway, linking Pacific and Atlantic ports. Containers will move by train across the isthmus, bypassing the congested Panama Canal. The idea is centuries old, but droughts and delays at Panama have made it urgent. The corridor promises a crossing in as little as 6 hours, ideal for high-value, time-sensitive goods. 10 new industrial parks along the route aim to turn southern Mexico into a manufacturing and logistics hub. The project is central to Mexico's nearshoring strategy, attracting investment and jobs. If successful, it could capture up to 10% of the trade, now passing through Panama. This would boost Mexico's economy and challenge Panama's dominance. The competition between canal and corridor will reshape trade and investment in the region. These new trade routes are igniting a fresh era of geopolitical competition as nations race to secure their economic futures and assert their influence on the world stage. The shifting currents of global commerce are redrawing boundaries and creating new opportunities and new risks for countries and corporations alike. Russia's control of the Northern Sea Route gives it strategic leverage over shipping, intelligence, and military power in the Arctic. As melting ice opens up these once impassable waters, Russia is rapidly expanding its presence, building new ports and deploying advanced icebreakers to assert dominance over this critical passage. China's Polar Silk Road, intertwined with Russia's ambitions, forms a powerful Eurasian bloc, shifting trade away from Western-controlled lanes. This partnership is not just about economics, it's about reshaping the balance of power, as both nations invest heavily in infrastructure and technology to control the flow of goods between continents. For the US and its allies, this challenges the traditional role of the US Navy as global maritime guardian. The rise of alternative routes and rival powers means the US must adapt its strategies, investing in new technologies and forging stronger alliances to maintain its influence over the world's oceans. In the Americas, Mexico's corridor strengthens its partnership with the US and reduces reliance on Panama. This new land bridge is transforming North American trade, making supply chains more resilient and efficient in the face of global disruptions. But it also attracts foreign investment, including from China, raising strategic concerns about who ultimately controls these vital links. As global powers compete for influence, every new investment becomes a potential lever in the broader contest for dominance. These routes are pieces on a global chessboard, with major powers vying for influence. Every decision, every new corridor is a calculated move in a high-stakes game that will shape the future of international relations. The alliances, military postures, and economic dependencies they create will define 21st century power. The interplay between commerce and security is more complex than ever, as nations seek to protect their interests while navigating an increasingly interconnected world. The map of trade is changing, and so is the map of global influence. As new routes emerge and old ones fade, the balance of power is in flux. with far-reaching consequences for economies and societies everywhere. The stakes have never been higher. In this new great game of trade, every move counts, and the outcome will determine who leads and who follows in the decades to come. The new trade map will create winners and losers. Russia could collect billions in transit fees and spur Arctic development. Mexico hopes its corridor will transform its south into a manufacturing powerhouse. Nations along new routes stand to gain. Those tied to old ones, like Panama and Egypt, risk losing vital revenue. Port cities like Singapore may see their importance wane. Shipping companies could benefit from faster, cheaper routes, but must invest in new ships and logistics. Entirely new economic ecosystems will emerge, from Mexican industrial parks to Arctic resource hubs. The transition will be disruptive, forcing industries and governments to adapt to a new reality. These new routes promise efficiency, but raise serious environmental concerns. The Northern Sea Route exists because of Arctic ice melt, a climate catastrophe. Increased shipping threatens fragile ecosystems with oil spills, black carbon, and noise pollution. Mexico's corridor cuts through rainforests and wetlands, risking deforestation and habitat loss. Industrial parks will increase the human footprint and strain local resources. The paradox: new routes adapt to climate change, but may worsen it through more emissions and environmental damage. Solutions require strict international regulations, cleaner fuels, and strong protections. Without them, short-term gains could mean irreversible harm. The world must weigh economic ambition against environmental responsibility. Experts see these shifts as gradual but transformative. Dr. Anjali Sharma, maritime strategist, says the era of canal monopolies is ending. Trade is moving from a few arteries to a complex network. This brings resilience but also new friction points in competition. Michael Chen, logistics analyst, notes the NSR's high costs and risks, making it a niche route for now, while Mexico's corridor is more immediately promising. Geopolitical analyst Robert Kaplan sees geography returning to the forefront, with Russia and China reshaping trade to reduce U.S. influence. These are not just commercial projects, they're grand strategy in action. Environmental scientist Dr. Elena Petrova warns, the Arctic is Earth's air conditioner. Opening it to industry risks accelerating global warming. The economic benefits must be weighed against the global cost. The world faces a choice, and future generations will judge the outcome. Sustainable governance is urgently needed. The world stands at a crossroads as the old map of trade is redrawn. The rise of the Northern Sea Route and Mexico's corridor signals a shift to a more complex multipolar system. The age of a few dominant choke points is ending, replaced by diversified routes and new risks. This moment brings opportunity and danger. We must balance innovation with caution, embracing new routes while managing geopolitical tensions and supporting those left behind. Above all, environmental risks, especially in the Arctic, demand urgent action and international cooperation. The story of these new trade routes is about the future we choose to build. It's a test of our ability to innovate responsibly and protect the planet. The decisions we make now will shape prosperity, stability, and the environment for generations. The tides of global trade are shifting. Let's navigate them wisely.